Feedback. What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. How's it going, everybody? Hello to everybody in the comments. Who's here? Jazzy Jazz. What's up, Jazzy Jazz? How are ya? How are ya? How are ya? Go ahead and put the comments up. First Liberties Podcast. Nay's here. What's up, Nay? How's it going, Joe? What up, Joe? All right, you guys. So we've got the prelims going on tomorrow. Faded Joe, how's it going? Welcome. Coco Mom. How are you, Coco Mom? I got worried for a bit. Haven't seen you in a minute. Nay, how's it going? Coco Mom celebrating 6 months as a member. Let's go. All right, you guys. So we're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on X as well. So if you guys are on X, don't forget to subscribe. What's up, Nebby? How are you? All right, we probably got nobody here because Flojo doesn't stream often enough to keep a crowd. But anyways, I just wanted to come on here and let you guys know that I will be at the courthouse tomorrow. So cross our fingers. We hopefully get a spot in this lottery. Knowing my luck, it's not going to happen. But we're going to see what happens. Let me just move my camera down just a little bit. All right, cool. That should be good. Let's go back up here. All right, cool. Just dealing with life and smoke from Canada. Oh, I hear you. What's up, Nene? How are you? What's up, Dubs? Dubs is in the house. Got an interview with Trapmore Ross. I don't think he's going to be at the courthouse tomorrow, but I mean, if he is, we'll see. What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome. All right, you guys. So, what do we want to talk about? I know there's a video that's up right now that I do want to react to because Law and Crime put a video out. So I do want to react to that. And then SF just put out a tweet out, and I want to get into that. And I want to read that with you guys. And then, have any of you guys seen the new video that's kind of going around regarding Asia and some of the stuff that apparently she said in a video she got caught saying in a live stream? It's a little crazy. We'll definitely get into it in a bit. Let me just make sure that I have everything's good. Everything's good to go. Resting beach face. What's going on? Positive vibes. I know, right? Hopefully we get in there. Well, we can only hope, right? But we are definitely going to be in there, and we are going to see. I haven't watched any new videos yet. Well, I do have one that I do want to share. However, I do want to take a look at. I'm going to show you guys this video because it is of Asia. Let me just make sure that I find it. Okay, so I posted it on X earlier today. And if you guys aren't on there, you guys, X has become one of the newer platforms that I've been like most active on. So if you guys aren't following me on X, make sure you guys are following me here because I am pretty much active on here pretty much all day. But I want you guys to check out this clip. This is a video clip of Asia and somebody. I don't know who this content creator is, but it seems like Asia was seen on a stream, and she kind of jokes about, unaliving and dating, A minors. So we're gonna check it out, and I want to see what you guys think about it. Let's go ahead and get right into it, you guys.
I win. You gotta get a number.
Oh shit.
That's good. That's someone said that. Someone said that.
Damn, bro.
But we gotta be low key about it.
I'm just hoping, like, we're at an arcade. I hope I don't get a minor's number, bro. Like, not.
You gotta ask
She just said, I hope I don't get a minor's number, you guys. Oh, Lord. Oh, God.
the age first.
No, you never asked the age.
Y'all just hear that? She just said never ask the age. What is she talking about? Asia, come on.
Low key about it.
I'm just hoping, like, we're at an arcade. I hope I don't get a minor's number, bro. Like, not.
You gotta ask the age first.
No, you never asked the age. You always just gotta.
Cindy.
Yeah,
We gotta gamble. We gotta
you find
gamble.
out later after you hook up with them.
After,
Yeah.
you just gotta gamble your life.
No, it's not gambling nothing, you know. If they snitch, you know, you just.
Oh,
If they snitch, you guys see that? She said if they snitch. That I don't know how I feel about that. How do you guys feel about that?
Nothing, you know. If they snitch, you know, you just.
oh, it is. Why would they snitch? Feel that.
What is on me? Oh, it's my hair. I'm kind of prepping to see whose number I'm gonna get. Like who's gonna be down for me.
That kid.
No, bro, stop, bro. I'm not talking to minors today.
Today.
This girl just I feel like every day that goes by, it's like it just doesn't get any better for her. Like, and if you guys know, somebody in the chat, if you guys know if this is a new video, let me know. If this is old, let me know, because I mean it's barely floating around now, so I mean it could be a really old clip, but I just really think that it's the timing of this video coming out is just diabolical to me.
No.
Wait, how old are you?
22.
No, this got to be old, right? Because isn't she like 23, 24 now? So this is probably an old clip.
What about a bad day? Feel it?
No!
Whack.
Shit. I'm gonna have to ask a child out.
What the? No, there's someone old enough.
Yeah, someone's dad.
Yeah, look.
Bro.
All right, you guys, what do you guys think about that? Y'all let me know in the comments, but we're gonna go ahead and move on. I want to take a look at this first really quick. Let me see. No, this isn't on TikTok. We'll go ahead and jump into the sidebar video. I think this is with Jesse Weber. Yeah. All right. With David playing in the background. What? I know, right? Flojo, it makes no difference if it's old or new. She said what she said. Right, Cindy? She said what she said. Raina, how's it going? Welcome. Oops, let me go back. So I guess this is basically talking about, will David's murder case even go to trial? I want to know from you guys in the chat. If you think that this is going to go to trial, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't think this is going to go to trial, put a 2 in the chat. I'm really curious to know where you guys stand and what you guys think. I mean, I'm sure I know we're pretty much everybody, stands with this, but I'm curious if there's going to be any 2s. I'm very curious.
I'm Jesse Weber. So tomorrow's the day. Day 1 of a multi-day preliminary hearing in the David murder case. This is where the prosecution is going to present evidence to convince the court, convince the judge that they have sufficient proof to support the charges for this case to move forward to trial. This is a probable cause.
There you go, Joe. There you go. Joe said, if anything, he'll plead guilty to the abuse charge, but this is otherwise going to trial. I love it when Joe just kind of chimes in and shares his thoughts. Heather, what's going on? They're going to pull a Garrigo special and try to win on technicality. Eek. I really hope not. I hope not.
Standard. It is a lower standard. Probable cause to support the charges. And remember what this is also about. This is about transparency, right? Because this is a case that has been shrouded in so much secrecy. This is an opportunity to finally see what the prosecution claims it has. So I wanted to do a preview of what we can expect, and I have some logistical details for you that I will tell you one person is pretty upset about. And I have an idea about a potential key witness, one of David's reported friends, someone we haven't spoken about a lot, but she just posted a video and it got me thinking. We'll get into that. Now, remember, David is the singer currently charged with first-degree murder, continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14, unlawful mutilation of human remains, all in connection with the death of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Prosecutors allege that he was in a sexual relationship with her, that back on April 23rd, 2025, prosecutors allege that David lured her to his home in LA, stabbed her to death, allegedly watched her bleed out, which is an important detail that I'm going to get to, and then reportedly took horrifying measures to conceal this killing, all in an effort to keep her quiet about their relationship, to prevent her from coming forward, that this would have ruined his very successful, lucrative career. The special circumstances allegations, which carry heftier penalties, potentially the death penalty, include murder of a witness, murder for financial gain, lying in wait. Prosecutors allege that he used a deadly and dangerous weapon, a sharp instrument, to kill Celeste. And prosecutors allege that he purchased a blue inflatable pool, chainsaws, a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, that he dismembered her body, that he...
You know, it's crazy because the other night I was reading over the brief and I just forgot how much detail there is regarding this case. I mean, we have barely even scratched the surface on any kind of evidence. Let me remind you guys, there are 40 terabytes of, stuff that's considered evidence in this case. And we talk about the stuff that people have found on Reddit, whether it's on X, and that's just a small portion. But can you imagine the amount of stuff that they have on these people? I mean, on David? This is going to be crazy.
Made suspicious trips to the Santa Barbara County area, that he lied to friends and associates about the alleged smell of decomposition in his residence. These are all the allegations. And it all culminates September 8th, 2025. That is the day after what would have been Celeste's 15th birthday that her dismembered, decomposed body is found, reportedly in the front trunk of a Tesla, allegedly registered to David at an LA tow yard. He has entered a not guilty plea, and he is innocent unless proven guilty. So that's where we're at. Now I got to go into this. So first things first, before I even get into the substance of what we can expect at this preliminary hearing, we received an update. We received a notice to all media. So this preliminary hearing is set to begin at 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday, July 21st, 2026, in Department 105 on the 9th floor of the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center with Judge Charlene F. Olmedo.
Coco Mom says, sorry, but flojoetv, did you get my gift? Had to step away for a minute. I don't see. Did you send one? Oh, hold on. Let me make sure, because I know sometimes you'd be sending some some cash apps. And yes. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. I did receive it. So thank you so much for your cash app donation, Coco Mom. You are the best. Thank you for the coffee money. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Presiding. And this preliminary hearing is scheduled to last
10 more
3
hours.
days. And this part's key. It says, this notice, the court will hold a public lottery for public seats for the preliminary hearing. The court will conduct a public lottery for 10 public seats and 10 standby seats from 7:30 to 8:15 a.m. It's going to be on the first floor lobby of this courthouse on each day of the preliminary hearing. And then it says there's going to be no photography, video, or recording that is allowed in any courtroom, courthouse hallway, or lobby at any time, including the use of cell phones to capture pictures, video, or audio recordings. So you can see why this is going to be an issue.
You guys, how do you guys feel about this? I mean, do you guys think that the courts or LA is trying to hide something from the public? I mean, it is very odd that they are only allocating 10 seats to the public, and all of the media have already received their media credentials to enter the courtroom. But I do remember during one of the I forget what it was, but they were saying that anybody who wanted a media pass needed to submit their request. So I think this was during the last status conference. That I do remember that, but unfortunately, I'm not media. I'm independent media, but we didn't get no media passes.
In terms of transparency, right? Do you know who's not happy about this? Steve Fisher. We've had him on the program before, the private investigator who has been looking into this case. He was hired by the owner of the property where David was reportedly staying. This is the place near where the Tesla was reportedly towed. He took to X And he posted, quote, "The court is allowing only 10 members of the public into the preliminary hearing in the David case. That is outrageous, not how public act."
Oh, Brian Enton's going to be there. Wow. Okay, so Brian Enton is actually going to be out here in LA. Looks like he's going to be covering this case as well. I know Lauren Conlin's going to be there. I know some other people that are actually going to be there as well. They're going to get there quite early. And I was informed that they didn't go the media route passes as well. So I'm very curious to see how this is going to go. Yeah, I saw that Lauren's already out here. I think she flew out yesterday. Media is media. The Constitution does not differentiate between independent and CNN. We want, yep. We want those press passes. I know they should allow more seats. I mean, this is a huge courthouse for that matter. There should be way more than 10 seats available.
Access to the court should work. There is supposed to be a reasonable balance between seating for the press and seating for the public. This is a large courtroom, yet only 10 seats are being made available to the public. Her family has not appeared previously, and they could be called as witnesses. So they shouldn't be in the gallery anyway. They are not being held for that purpose. Not to mention, they're not allowing cameras even for the testimony that doesn't include CP.
Wait, hold on. For Celebrities Podcast, you said notices for a continuance have to be filed at least 48 hours prior to the official hearing. Don't be surprised if there's a delay. You're talking about after the prelim, if they decide for a continuance. You're talking about after prelim? That's going to be crazy. And you know what? I really do hope, like as Rabbit was saying earlier, I do hope that they do have an overflow room, right? I was there at the arraignment and, it was already like a media circus out there. I can only imagine how crazy it's going to be. Obviously, they're not allowing any kind of no cameras. They're not allowing any kind of cell phones inside. There's a little pouch that you have to place your phones into. So nobody can be giving it out any real-time live tweets. And I'm also curious how media is actually going to do this, once tomorrow comes around. So I'm curious to see if, they're going to have some runners who are going to come out and slip a few notes out to the next person to tweet, or I don't know. I'm really curious to see how news is going to break, or if news is going to break like during, the first breaks, any kind of lunch breaks. So we'll absolutely see how this goes. No, I mean, this upcoming hearing is possible. Just be warned. Oh, so you're saying that there's a possibility that we may get there and this prelim hearing may not even take place. That's going to be crazy. I really don't. I hope nothing happens, right? I hope everything's going to be set and ready to go.
CP, I believe, to be child pornography because they claim that that's what David allegedly had on his devices. Documents have been sealed throughout the case, and now access to the courtroom is being severely restricted. At this point, it feels as though they are making up their own rules. #David, #Celeste Rivas Hernandez. All right, look, a little bit of a 180 here, but I just have to call this out. For all you business owners out there,
no, Lord,
running a business, it's tough enough. Sorry, Imran, great to see you. Thank you. I'll talk about this and more, a lot more. I'm here with attorney Imran Ansari. Imran, great to see you. Thank you for taking the time. First of all, your reaction to what Steve had to say. I mean, does he have a point? There's a lot of people that want to know what's happening with this case. Do you think it's wrong to limit the amount of members of the public that should be in there? Do you think it's wrong to not have more cameras, more video, more transparency?
Well, there is a public right to access, right? And this is a trial that's going to really be grabbing the public's attention. We know that. But at the same time, the judge needs to balance maintaining order in the courtroom. And that's also regarding seating and who's in the courtroom and when they are in the courtroom. And certainly just a very practical consideration, the space in the courtroom. Now, this is it's a small amount being allocated to members of the public to get into that courtroom. And of course, as you pointed out, Jesse, it's not like there's going to be cameras broadcasting or a feed in a spillover room where people could sit and watch, which has happened in other trials where there's a lot of public attention and interest. So that is one consideration. But then also the prime importance for the court, for the prosecutor, for the defendant, is to have a fair trial and an orderly trial, and including this hearing. So all the preliminary matters leading up to trial. And that's really a consideration that the judge has here. I'm sure there's going to be challenges to that, perhaps some motions filed by members of the press or the public to try to get some access in there. But really, this the judge's discretion to make sure that there's order in the courtroom, and certainly that there's enough space and it's not turned into a circus within that courtroom.
Look, I'm biased. I would like more attention. I would like more transparency here. I think particularly for a high profile case like this in a matter of public interest, that's just my take. But, look, again, I really would like to see more, but I understand the court's considerations and I understand the considerations.
Before I go, welcome. How's it going? Thank you for joining us.
Of the defendant as well. What about the idea of Celeste's family being called as witnesses during this preliminary hearing? Do you think that's likely? I mean, for me, if I'm thinking about it, I wonder if they would testify to what they knew about this alleged illegal sexual relationship between Celeste and
David.
They were.
Yeah, they very well may be called. I think the prosecution has a lot of evidence, put aside the family and what they may have to say about their observations or what they learned or heard from Celeste or later learned, based on some of the evidence that came out afterwards. And certainly the reporting of her missing, there was that first time and then she returned. And then the second time, right? That may be information or evidence and testimony that the prosecution wants to put forward in this preliminary hearing. But I also think that the prosecution has a lot of evidence, whether it be the forensic evidence.
That's the January 2nd photo. That place it's a nice place, has a nice lookout, but it is a weird spot for her to just standing taking a photo.
The circumstantial evidence vis-a-vis the electronic data and location data that they have, that they may not need to call the family into that courtroom. So, we'll see.
I want to get into that because I want to take this potentially witness by witness, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit here because this just happened. I'm going to get into what we can expect from the preliminary hearing and who we can expect to testify. So I'm not going in order because what just came out? There was this video from Asia Collins. Okay, this is a person that we believe to be David's former friend. She posted a Twitch live stream on her account earlier this month. It was titled, "Welp, Let's Talk."
Speaking of Asia Collins, I just seen a Reddit post that said Asia Collins has now made her Instagram private. Coincidence? Let's see.
Here's a portion of what she said on that live stream.
So immediately I go to David and I'm like, hey, this girl's saying that you're the 13-year-old. You need to explain yourself. He was like, dude, that's not even true. Like, she's like 19. And I was like, no, she's not. She said she's 13. Like, show me proof. And you know what? He showed me proof. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna back off. I feel like I'm harassing my friend.
And by the way, TMZ also reported that back in June, she posted online seemingly calling David a
You guys hear her donations in the background. People are subbing up to her channel. That's funny.
Psychopath who lied and betrayed everyone around him. So she makes the point, look, how much more did you want me to question him? It's not like I just took his word. He's saying you show me proof. I'm not sure what you want me more to do, but she clearly doesn't believe him now. And she was trying to make the point to clarify the situation, but she was like, she pressed him. She was balancing between pressing him about this alleged relationship at the same time, not harassing who she thought was a friend. I feel like that's significant. I feel like she's going to testify, no?
Yeah, she very well may be, and she put it out there, right? So she's certainly on the radar of the prosecution and everyone else who's...
Put a 1 in the chat if you guys think Asia Collins is going to be testifying, whether it's at the prelim or when this thing goes to trial. And I'm not saying if. It's a matter of when, right? Because I have so much confidence in the prosecution that, and plus, they're going to meet this low bar, this low standard to reach probable cause. They're definitely gonna, this thing's gonna go to trial. But okay, so you guys think that Asia's going to testify? Now I want to know, do you guys think she's going to testify at the prelim or at trial? That's going to be, I was always very skeptical of Asia's story. Same thing I said to Rabbit, who leaves IDs with other people, even if they're dating, That's a good point, and there's going to be SF's tweet, raised a lot of questions. And to be honest with you, some of these questions that he put in his tweet are some of the same questions that we've been asking for a long, long time, right? So, I mean, obviously, it's great to see that we're all thinking along the same lines, and we're all hoping that we're all going to get these answers to the same questions that we all have. And we'll get into that tweet in a bit, though.
Really following this case and the events that led up to David's arrest and the horrific death here of Celeste Rivas. So, she may very well be someone who would come in and potentially testify about that contemporaneous sort of interaction with David at that time.
So resting, you don't think that she's going to testify at all? I know she has been a little loud, right? She's probably been speaking a lot. So I don't know. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Chloe, what's up, Chloe? I miss you, Chloe. How are you? Probably all law enforcement witnesses at the prelim. That's good. Well, I mean, so I'm sure we're going to hear from all law enforcement, but so any particular law enforcement that we're going to hear from, like the arresting officers or possibly the deputies that went to go visit him when they did that wellness check, right? When Riverside County contacted the LA County Sheriff's Department. I'm really curious who as law enforcement is going to be testifying.
Where she's questioning the age. He's now coming to her and perhaps giving her false information. Well, giving her false information at that time. And it could be a real credibility sort of question there. If there's any sort of defense put forward by the defense as to not knowing her age and the thing and all that. But we see the evidence. And I think that's not necessarily going to hold up.
I thought she might also testify because there was a portion where she said in this, she goes, there's not much more I'm paraphrasing. She goes, there's not much more I can say for legal reasons. So that makes me think like she might testify. Let's also talk about.
And I know that I put a tweet out because I put a tweet out with that little clip where she's saying that, she can't speak for legal reasons and that she has been compliant with law enforcement. And I accidentally mentioned in that video that she was cooperative. Big difference, right, Ava? I think Ava was the one who clarified in the comments too. There's a big difference. Cooperating and compliant.
Neil Langston for a minute. Okay, Neil Langston is somebody who has come up throughout the course of this case. This is another one of David's apparent friends who ran in a circle. We know a few months back, there was a video obtained by TMZ. It was posted apparently from July 2025 showing what appears to be David and Langston at what seems to be this Hollywood Hills property, with David saying the smell is from him going to the bathroom. And a prosecution filing states that David, quote, lied to friends, business associates, and others about that strong smell of decay in and around the home and the car. And Neo.
Okay, so, I mean, the brief mentions that he was lying to friends, business associates, etc. So are we under the assumption that he absolutely kept the body there? Is that what the prosecution is leading us to believe? Because he was lying about the smell, like which we can see from that video clip on 4th of July. I mean, do you guys, because that's one of the bigger questions, and I know SF asked that in his last tweet, is where did he store Celeste from April 23rd to May 5th, right? That is what we all want to know. And then afterwards, because that video that we saw was July 4th, so that would have been, what, May, June, July, almost 3 months of where he could have stored her. So if that 4th of July video, was referencing the smell of decay, was her body really close? Was her body possibly inside that home still? Right. How long do you smell something bad before you question it? But I think you're onto something, Flo. I don't know. We'll see. Soul Power, welcome. Thank you for rejoining the inner circle. Welcome back. Don, I don't know if SF is going to testify. I feel like he is going to be, in the lottery for one of the 10 seats. And I mean, I can already think of 10 people that are already going to be there. And this probably, I mean, I wonder, if Celeste's family decides to even show up at the prelim, are they going to have to join this lottery too? If David's family decides to join this prelim, are they going to have to join the lottery too? Like, how is that going to work? And what if all of those tickets just go to family members? That's going to be crazy on both sides.
Right? Neil Langston, he was arrested in Montana, was seemingly brought back to LA to testify before a grand jury. In fact, last week we learned the defense is going to receive copies of transcripts from grand jury proceedings, including the day we believe Langston showed up in court. Remember, a few months ago, TMZ captured footage of him reportedly entering the courthouse. TMZ also reported that he was only testifying in front of a grand jury for about 30 to 40 minutes. It raises questions about what did he actually testify to, whether he pleaded the fifth. But we also know he, too, took to social media after all this. There was an Instagram story post where he seemingly called David.
That's an old photo of Neo. Oop, and they put his mom's name out there.
A D-head posted, quote, "Thankfully, I'm legally fine in every way. And boy, do I got all my receipts for things. Ha, 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 ha." Then he reportedly posted, "I think the worst part is that I've told so many people that I trust and I thought knew me as a person, my side of things, all for that to be thrown out the effing window as soon as I get arrested and they slap that D-head's name next to mine. And for the record, the thing I was arrested for wasn't even charged. They never filed it and my warrant was retracted because there is more to the story than what's on the news." Is he going to tell his story at this preliminary hearing, or is he going to plead the fifth? Is he going to be called as a witness?
Yeah, I think he may be, right? No, he already went into the grand jury, and, we don't know yet what that testimony was, if any, and whether he took the fifth at that point. But then he's also at the same time, Jesse, going out there on social media and putting this message out there, which may be a little cryptic, but it's enough to decipher that it's related to this and to David.
Well, okay, so remember Neo's tweet, right? He said that he's got all of the receipts. What do you guys think that he means by all of the receipts? You talking voicemails, text messages, photos, videos? What do you think Neo has on David? Now, remember, let's go back, right? Because everybody was clowning on Neo and David's relationship and calling them really close and very close at that, right? I mean, what kind of information do you think Neo actually has on David to the point where he openly goes out on Instagram and says, "Bruh, I got all the receipts. Boy, do I got all the receipts." That's crazy.
Certainly there. And if he was represented by counsel, you would, and he was not, has not given any testimony or any statements that's going to be used by the prosecution, you certainly would think that he would have had the advice. You better not go out there on social media and start yapping, by an attorney. So I think he may testify. I think he probably did testify before that grand jury as to the smells, the observations, the things that he learned or he was told by David as this was being covered up allegedly. And I think that he may very well testify at this preliminary hearing because it's part of the prosecution's case and it gives context aside from the forensic evidence, aside from the geographical evidence that's gleaned from the Tesla and from the phone, etc. It's a live witness coming in as to observations that he saw.
Would he be granted immunity? Is that something we would learn during the course of this preliminary hearing? Is that something the defense could ask him if he testifies?
Certainly so, right? So if the prosecution struck a deal with him and if there was any sort of leniency or not immunity given, of course, in grand jury, that's commonly done. Even with this preliminary hearing, if there's any sort of deal with the prosecution, that's going to be exploited in any way they can from the defense team. But then again, can you score points even if you are attacking credibility? Because this isn't necessarily a credibility determination if he does take the stand. It's really going to the observations that individual made at that Hollywood Hills house, his interactions with David,
right, and
not so much something where, all right, he cut a deal with the prosecution to get out of any sort of culpability here.
Imran, let me just take a step.
So First Liberty's podcast is, not only did he suggest that his warrant was quashed, right? I mean, we even got comments under some of our videos before that basically stated that, his arrest was bogus. So I'm very curious to see, what kind of deal, Neo may have worked out with the prosecution. Or, you know, maybe if he just came clean and just gave them everything that they wanted. But I mean, what we do know is that he did show up to the secretive grand jury and only spent 30, 45 minutes tops, right? So I don't know.
Back for a second. So I'm jumping ahead to these witnesses who may be called. I think the first witnesses to testify for the prosecution in a preliminary hearing are the lead detectives. No, I mean, the ones that are going to kind of summarize all the evidence. Based on LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman, he had this press conference when it was announced that David was arrested. And I recall he said at the time that the LAPD detectives on the case are Josh Byers and Corey Farrell. Aren't they going to be the main witnesses at this prelim?
Yeah, Jesse, I think they will, because you have to analyze or look at the real purpose of this hearing, right? It's a preliminary hearing to determine probable cause and whether David is going to go to trial here and the evidence was sufficient to support the charges brought against him. So what are you going to do in terms of a prosecution standpoint? You want to get that evidence before the jury, and you're going to have to establish chain of custody and things like that, and observations by law enforcement, what led into the investigation here for probable cause to arrest. And you're going to do that through those detectives. And this case really is a law enforcement investigation heavy case because you have the discovery of the body in the Tesla and sort of the working your way back from a law enforcement standpoint, an investigatory standpoint, where you're looking at that geodata, when you're looking at, you know, the purchases that David is allegedly making for those very damning and incriminating sort of items for concealment of the body. And then you're also looking at and getting in evidence and testimony through the detectives, through law enforcement, as to the recovery of things like the inflatable pool once they get the search warrant. That's all damning evidence here for the, you know, alleged allegations against David, and ultimately for the prosecution to make their case. And specifically in this preliminary hearing, Jesse, I think that's what they're going to lead with, because they want that out there before the court early on to establish the evidence and the sufficiency of that evidence.
Viking woman, welcome. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. Long time no see. 54 warrants, you guys. That's how many warrants they have currently under seal. So I'm assuming that maybe starting tomorrow, we're going to see a few of these warrants become unsealed. There's going to be a lot of information that we're going to see, right? And this is there's going to be so much to talk about. The preliminary hearing is expected to last, I don't know, roughly about 3 to 4 days. I even heard at one point that they've allowed up to 9 days for this preliminary hearing, should it take that long. So I know they're going to be meeting on Tuesday, Wednesday, not Thursday, and then on Friday. And if they need to continue into the next week, then they're going to do that. But I know one day this week they're not going to meet. So this is going to be quite interesting.
One of the biggest question marks from the prosecution's prior filing was they claimed David stabbed Celeste and watched her bleed out. Do you think the prosecution, through these lead detectives or maybe another witness, is going to explain how they know that, how they know that he allegedly watched her bleed out? Are they just assuming that because they claim that no one called emergency services? Or do they have a witness? Are these detectives going to say, we have surveillance footage of this? Or is that, again, am I just looking too much into it and they're saying they watched her bleed out because he allegedly didn't call emergency services?
Yeah, so Jesse, when I read that in some reporting, that was my literally, that was my initial reaction. Like, how do they know that to make that allegation that he watched her bleed out, right? And I had that same sort of question. So I'm thinking through it. It may not necessarily be something as clear-cut as surveillance footage or a witness who we probably would have heard about if there was anyone present during this when this happened. And I think it's pretty clear there wasn't. It may be supported by medical evidence, although she was so decomposed, the body parts, that we know that the medical examiner also struggled with the determination at one.
Well, I mean, he may have struggled, right? But I do know that there was a video that just came out with Dr. Uday Ukpo, and basically in that video, there were just 3 things that really stood out, in that video. And basically what he said was she did not die from drugs. What else did he say? She did not die from natural causes, and that she was indeed stabbed. Right. So I'm curious to see what other evidence they're going to be showing to indicate and prove that, he stood while she bled out.
Point of death and things like that, right? So it could just be speculation at some points, right? That there was no assistance called, 911 wasn't called. We know at least that there were penetrating wounds that led to the death, and that likely there wasn't any sort of remedy or medical treatment in terms of David allegedly placing anything to stem the bleeding or things like that. So I think we're not necessarily against some clear damning evidence such as surveillance, but I think you could put 2 and 2 together, and that's where they get that statement.
Do you think these lead detectives are going to finally reveal the text messages between David and Celeste, or is there going to be a Cellbrite expert or somebody from digital forensics? Because you go back to the prosecution's brief and they say that there are these text message exchanges between the defendant and the victim on April 22nd and April 23rd, 2025, where the victim threatened to expose the defendant and destroy his career. That the night prior, April 22nd, 2025, defendant and the victim engaged in a lengthy argument described in detail in their text messages. The messages revealed the victim's jealousy over defendant's relationships with other women,
Abraham.
as defendant led her to believe they had a future together. She became extremely upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about her relationship with defendant to end his career and destroy his life. So do you think that either the lead investigators or somebody from digital forensics is going to testify to those, the content, the substance of those messages?
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. I think we're going to see those text messages. We already know the substance or the sum and substance of those text messages based on those filings. And the prosecution is likely to call someone from the cell phone carrier or an investigatory body that is able to lay the evidentiary foundation for those text messages to come into evidence. And of course, the detectives or law enforcement staff who ultimately took those or were able to get that off his phone or any other methods to get those messages that were exchanged between the two. But I certainly believe that we're going to see those text messages. And of course, the prosecution doesn't have to show or prove motive, but there's always a desire. This is a preliminary hearing, but let's say this goes to trial, a desire from the jury to hear motive, for a complete narrative as to why something so tragic happened. And those text messages give the prosecution the ability to argue motive here in this case, whereas there's the jealousy, the threat to expose him right when he's about to release that that premiere or the first album, go on tour, and he's on the sort of verge of stardom there. So that's that motive there. And I think we're going to see the text messages really taking a front role in the evidence.
So really quick, just in case you guys are tuning in, yes, I will be at the courthouse tomorrow. And so with that, I will ask if you guys can do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe if you guys aren't already. Make sure you have your notifications turned on so that when I do go live, you guys will be able to catch everything that we have, going down. Also, if you guys do want to help, support the channel, we do have a few ways that you can support the channel. You can donate, super chat. We have Cash App, we have Venmo. If you guys want some of the mods, if you guys can drop the links in the chat. Just to help out with tomorrow. But obviously not mandatory, not required. But if you guys feel the need, to want to help while we make our way out to the courthouse tomorrow, feel free to support the channel.
It's here.
I think you might also hear from like his managers or agents or people around him to talk about the height of his career too, right? If they're trying to prove special circumstances allegations, killing for financial gain, I think a part of it, they would have to establish where was he at in his career? Why did he need Celeste to be quiet?
Absolutely. And I think that's the story, or at least the theory that the prosecution is going to be putting forward before that jury.
By the way, in terms of this alleged child pornography, right, that they claim is on David's devices, is that something that I imagine will be presented at a preliminary hearing through the lead detectives?
To some extent, Jesse, I think, right? We've heard about that child pornography, whether it's photographs or videos of Celeste Rivas.
Abraham,
I
thank you
believe
so
that
much,
may be
Abraham.
the case, and we're not going to see that.
Thank you for your Cash App donation, Abraham. Appreciate it.
Certainly, but we may hear about that, and I think we're going to hear the testimony about that being recovered off the cell phone, because again, it goes to some aspects of the crimes that he's charged with, of course, and I think we're certainly going to learn about that, and to the extent that he has it, I think it was a relatively sizable amount, if I understand correctly, but that's going to be damning evidence ultimately for him when it's relevant to some of the crimes that he's charged
to.
I also have to imagine the manager of the tow yard, the crime scene technicians, talking about what they discovered in that Tesla.
Belgium, what's up, Belgium?
Also, but one of the reasons why this is a
Welcome.
3-day hearing, there's so much to it, but I imagine that's something we can expect too, right?
Titan?
Certainly,
Titan?
right? And again, that goes towards the weight and the sufficiency of the evidence and ultimately the probable cause here. And I certainly think we're going to hear about it. And it's going to be difficult to hear when you learn about the dismemberment, the torso and the head in one bag, and then the body, the missing fingers. It's gruesome, gruesome stuff. And whenever you hear about this, certainly with a public figure like David, of course, they're allegations, but these allegations here, they're really difficult to stomach. And, the aspects about this inflatable pool, and what happened in that Hollywood Hills home as the allegations are put forth, it's difficult to listen to. And certainly if you see the photographic evidence, which in this courtroom may very well be the case, it's going to be difficult to see. That's
horrifying. It makes you think about a jury that's going to ultimately see this if this goes to trial, and also her family if the family is in the courtroom. Let's talk about the medical examiner. I actually think the medical examiner is going to be a key witness for multiple reasons. First of all, if you go to the death investigation report, it might be several people. It lists out medical examiner investigator Karen Tapia, deputy medical examiner Dr. Ansel Nam, supervisor, deputy medical examiner Dr. Grant Ho, forensic technician Daniel Garcia. Not sure everybody's going to testify, but the cause and manner of Celeste's death are key. And I do wonder not only what the substance of that testimony is going to be and how it's going to be presented, but also what the defense is going to do. Right? Because if you go to the report, it says death was pronounced at the scene. Autopsy examination was limited by extensive post-mortem changes. There are 2 penetrating wounds of the torso with smooth edges that may represent sharp force injuries. The wound on the upper abdomen penetrates the liver, and the wound on the left chest penetrates one of the left intercostal spaces with disruption of the adjacent ribs' cortical surfaces. The left lung appears intact. The bilateral upper and lower extremities show full thickness dismemberment. Multiple other skin.
Full thickness dismemberment. It basically just means through and through, all the way through.
And soft tissue defects are present without apparent associated internal injuries. The etiology of these defects is not clearly apparent due to severe postmortem changes. Postmortem toxicology performed on liver tissue shows the presence of a low level of ethanol, which may be due to postmortem changes or ingestion, and does not appear to be contributory to the cause of death. Given the history and circumstances as currently known by me in the setting of the findings by examination, ancillary studies, and in the absence of other definitive causes of death, the cause of death is multiple penetrating injuries. The manner of death is classified as homicide. You will not have this case without that kind of testimony. So Imran, 2 questions to you here. 1, what can we expect from this witness or witnesses? And 2, this to me feels like we're really going to see the defense challenging the prosecution's evidence, because his attorneys originally said when he was arrested, the actual evidence in this case will show that David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and he was not the cause of her death. Talk to me.
Sure. So let's take that into 2 parts, right? From the evidentiary standpoint, what do we hear from these medical examiners? Well, certainly the methodology that they used in analyzing and evaluating the body, right? That's going to be out there in that courtroom. And again, it goes to the sufficiency of the evidence and what leads the prosecution to bringing these charges against Burke, right? So that's what we're going to hear from them. And I'm certainly, again, same, you're going to hear about the condition of the body. It's going to probably be difficult to hear about the decomposition of the body and how they came to the ultimate medical opinion or analysis as to the manner of death and the cause of death with those penetration wounds, etc. Now, pivot to the defense standpoint. This is your opportunity from a defense standpoint to really challenge the evidence. There's so much which circumstantially and the other forensic evidence and data and the purchase history and all that doesn't really bode well for Burke in this case, for David in this case. But when you look at the ME and the sort of the analysis they did, that's some ground where you may be able to achieve from a defense standpoint in attacking the sufficiency of that. And was this body too decomposed to really reasonably get to that opinion from the medical examiner? So we expect that the defense is going to do something right on their end in terms of challenging the evidence. And I think this may be one point, one area of evidence that they may be able to score some points.
I think also might testify Riverside County Sheriff's Department deputies, because you go back to this idea of trying to establish that there was this alleged relationship between David and Celeste, which makes up its own set of charges, but also goes to the special circumstances, the motive, all that. So, and this goes back to the prosecution's filing. So much of that was about her allegedly, going missing, them going to David, right? Trying to contact him denying that he had a relationship or really knew her that well, that didn't know she was a minor. To me, I feel like that's going to be a portion of this case too, although it does become a question, how much does the prosecution need to actually present at a preliminary hearing to meet that low burden?
Yeah, certainly. And I think we may hear it, right? Because the prosecution, put yourself in their shoes for a moment. They want to come in strong here. They don't want to leave anything to chance, right? If you have the evidence and you have the testimony, you should present it. And I think you may hear about that, right? Sort of that evasiveness or, untruths potentially as alleged here from David. And that really does go to a consciousness of guilt potentially, and they want to put that before the court, right? There's no need. You already know about it. The defense already knows about it. No one's sort of scoring any points by keeping it back. And I think we may hear that evidence. Certainly it would benefit the prosecution if they put that before the court, sort of the demeanor and the statements being made by David when he is, brought in for questioning. So I expect that we're going to hear that evidence.
Before I let you go, one last thought I had was whether or not we are going to hear from David's family as witnesses. Number one, we know that there was reporting that they were trying to fight the subpoenas to testify, presumably at grand juries or grand jury. But we also believe, or at least I believe, that they may be asked, what were your interactions with Celeste? What did you see between David and Celeste? There was this part about it where you go back to the prosecution's filing, and they say that she had spent significant amount of time with him, including at his home in Texas to meet his family, but also the car itself, the Tesla, right? The Tesla itself, there is reporting, according to authorities, it was registered to David in Hempstead, Texas. You think his family is going to make an appearance, testify at this preliminary hearing?
Put a one in the chat if you think David's family is going to show up at that preliminary hearing, or put a 2 if you don't think they're going to show up at all.
Possibly, right? There is that interesting fact that you just mentioned was that, he took her to meet his family, right? So they had the opportunity at that point to observe the relationship, their interactions with one another. And if the prosecution finds that that's going to somehow move the ball forward here at this hearing, you may hear from them. I certainly think you may hear from them if this does go to trial before a jury, because then obviously the depth of the evidence and the broadness of the evidence is going to be all the much more greater there. So you may hear from them at this preliminary hearing. You may not. I don't think the prosecution necessarily has to call them. And also with the registration of the car, they may be able to get that in certain other ways, take judicial notice of the registration of the car. But they are potential witnesses here. And certainly at trial, I think you may hear from them.
Imran Ansari, thanks so much for coming on. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock as well.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that. Let me see. Hold on, because I think Khadijah put a video out earlier. Oh, yeah. Another update. There was a motion that, David's team put out for them to request that he wears no shackles and no handcuffs. Viking Woman, thank you so much for the Flow State Gems. I appreciate you. Thank you. Obsidian, what's up, Obsidian? Long time no see. Let's go see what Kadisha has to say.
David has just put in a motion asking the judge to come to the preliminary hearing tomorrow over Celeste Rivas Hernandez, not in shackles and not in handcuffs. David's attorneys are arguing that he doesn't pose a risk to the community, that he has never tried to escape or been disruptive in all of the hearings that he's had already. And this is one of the reasons why they want him to come in without any handcuffs or shackles on. This is usually a tactic before an actual trial, not so much a preliminary hearing. And the reason why it's a tactic at trial is because they don't want the jury to perceive you like you're already guilty. Now, the judge has not made a determination if he's going to be able to enter the courtroom like this tomorrow.
You know, David's going to request for that nail polish, right? Norma, thank you so much for the 2 jewels. Appreciate you. Thank you.
I'm sure before the preliminary hearing, there is going to be some type of response where we figure out if she's going to let him come in like this or not. A lot of people have been asking me, what type of evidence will we probably hear at this preliminary hearing tomorrow? And it was actually talked about in the brief. So let's go over it really quick because it's kind of a lot. You're going to hear information about
Hold on really quick. I just want to make sure I shout everybody out who's helped support the channel. Abraham, we got that Cash App donation from you. And then Tammy sent a Venmo donation. So I appreciate you, Tammy. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
much everything that David is charged with, because the prosecutors have to show probable cause for each charge, but you're not going to hear everything that they have, but you're going to hear a lot more details than what we know already. Not only are we going to hear about the murder charges with the special circumstances of them trying to prove probable cause for those, we're also going to hear about essay of a minor and also mutilation of a corpse. Like I said in this brief, they put a whole list of things that they plan to show at this preliminary hearing, but it is literally just some of them. They said it's including but not limited to, so they could add more to this. You did just hear the DA basically explain how they were going to do it, and they are going to lay this out like a timeline. I think they're going to start this timeline out probably from when detectives went to question David about Celeste being a runaway the first time she ran away, and they alleged that David showed them a yearbook photo of Celeste but claimed that he didn't know how old she was. We probably will have officers maybe testify about that fact and what they saw and what they went through during that home visit to David's house. I have descriptions of photographs descripting Celeste not with clothes on, as well as while she was engaged with the defendant in physical activities when she was 13. This is literally being described because it's illegal, so nobody is going to see these photos or videos, even in the courtroom. I'm going to show text messages between David and Celeste of their relationship that talk about pregnancy, abortion, and the use of Plan B. They claim that they are going to continue showing text messages between March of 2025 to prove that David continued to manipulate Celeste. They reference one of these messages being from Celeste saying that all they do is have physical relations and just hang out, and she wanted more for herself than that. We're going to show David's cellular activity and communications from his iPhone and Tesla to demonstrate his activities from April 22nd of 2025 till April 24th of 2025, including a trip to Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night after the victim arrived in his Hollywood Hills home. The thing I'm sure they'll tie in with this is how the Caltrans worker found Celeste's passport ID card in Santa Barbara County. Add on to this, another thing that I heard in the Hulu doc, which the DA was speaking in, allegedly, I guess they also have text messages from the night of Celeste arriving to his home when they alleged that she was unalived, where David literally says that he allegedly unlocked the gate and everything and for her to come right in. I do assume we are going to have probably an Uber driver testifying about him dropping Celeste off there, because I do think this will be a big piece of the puzzle. We're going to show surveillance video of David driving his Tesla on July 29th of 2025 for the last time before parking the vehicle and leaving on tour at the end of July. They claim that they are going to show DNA evidence developed from stains collected from David's garage, which match Celeste's genetic profile. They say that they're going to show proof of David's Amazon purchases and deliveries to his residence, including 2 chainsaws, a body bag, an inflatable pool, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a burn cage after April 24th of 2025. Mind you, they did say after this, which I think will come into play, how Celeste had the same pieces of this pool embedded into her. They were able to match that, so that might come into play also. They're going to show proof of David's purchase and delivery from...
Speaking of the little pieces and fragments of the blue inflatable pool that they found embedded within Celeste, I want to know if they were able to locate or find the actual chainsaw or the M weapon, right? The weapon that they actually used to commit the murder. Obviously, we know that he poked her twice, so I'm curious to know if they were able to locate it. Obviously, they wouldn't need it, but I'm very curious to know if they actually found it and if they actually found that first chainsaw. So, I mean, I don't know. First Liberties, if they actually found the murder weapon and the other chainsaw, do you think that they would place that in the brief, or is that something that they're going to hold in their back pocket till afterwards? Or Chloe, if you're still here, if they found it, do you think that they would have told us in the brief?
Postmates a shovel from Home Depot to his home on April 24th of 2025. They're going to show Uber records showing David's transaction where he ordered an Uber to pick up Celeste from her Lake Elsinore home and transport her to his residence the night of April 23rd of 2025. And they're basically going to show David's career, like how he was on the uprise, how his literal album was coming out just days before this. And this is what they are alleging with the financial gain. Also going to show the text message exchanges between David and Celeste on April 22nd and April 23rd of 2025, where she threatened to expose him and destroy his career. And this is a big part of the puzzle because this is what prosecutors are alleging the reason for her unaliving was because she threatened him. It also falls into the special circumstance of murdering a witness. They are alleging that Celeste was in a illegal relationship with David and she was going to out this, but he, unalived her, so she couldn't do that. They saying this is just some, but it's not limited to, so they could have more, and there is more to talk about. One of the things they talked about in this brief also, but didn't say if they're going to talk about it at the preliminary hearing, is when David
this guy is absolute. This kid also is probably going to be called up to testify.
Was caught in this photo allegedly trying to give somebody a phone to give to Celeste and paying the student to do so. Curious to see if this is going to come up at the preliminary hearing or if they're going to hold this off for trial, but I'm sure the person that David allegedly paid and gave the phone to is going to have to testify. We've also talks about David lying to his friends for months, so I assume some of his friends might be testifying. I don't know whether at the preliminary hearing or at trial. We know Neo had to go and testify to the grand jury, and we know Asia just recently took to social media, not for good reasons, and said that she has been talking to investigators, and she claimed that David showed her proof that Celeste was 19 when she wasn't after she saw the missing poster in 20.
That still bothers me, even since the last live that we did. The fact that Asia went on her Twitch and she said that she bothered her, harassed David and asked for proof. And then she just, she was all okay about it after he showed her multiple IDs. She didn't say that in the Twitch stream, but she did say that in her Reddit post, right? But multiple IDs, like what was it? A passport card? Was it ID card? Was it school ID? Was it what else? What did he use to prove it? And another question you should have asked Asia was, why in the hell do you have possession of it? That's a little odd and controlling, if you ask me.
2024. So I assume people like this are going to come into play. Don't know if it'll be the preliminary hearing or if this will be at trial. And then you also can't forget there was reports that David's managers also had to testify to this grand jury. So it will be very interesting to see what all new information we learn from this preliminary hearing and who we hear testify at this preliminary hearing. We'll see y'all tomorrow, but y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.
In the comments. That's right. Joanne, thank you so much for the 10 gems. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who supported the channel tonight. I appreciate you guys. Do me a favor if you guys can, hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. I know it's been a while. Flojo doesn't stream anymore. Jesus, how come he doesn't go on anymore? I've been super busy with work, but that's not an excuse, you guys. Abraham said, sadly, the only thing that was found was the passport card too, right? I don't think it was an actual passport book. One would pick up the passport before they would pick up a chainsaw they find on the street. Yeah, that is weird. Jazzy, thank you so much for the 10 gems. Thank you, Mod. I appreciate you, Mod. How's it going, Mod? What else? There was something else that I was going to show you guys. Oh, hold on. Let me see. Where is it at? Let me Open this up really quick. I'll share this. This is the video that came out. Hold on. Let me make sure that we have sound. Okay, we got sound. Share. This was a video that came out earlier today. Oops.
As soon as she died, the effect on the community started to tick at that moment. What happened to her? The family's wondering what happened to her. The community,
Right
the neighbors,
here, John.
what
Me
happened
right
to her?
here.
What if my daughter, what if my son, is involved with something? And so by keeping it a secret, the community has a lot of anxiety and depression about that. And maybe they can't even focus and function because they're concerned about what happened and no one's telling them. And so that's why it's so important for us to release the information that she did not die from something natural. She did not die from drugs. She was stabbed. The Reiner's case is one that's straightforward. There was actually information provided about the deaths before we even were called out that was shared. And it's
yeah, look at that look that he's just giving to his dad. It's crazy. Psychotic.
Clear to me what sort of information we have that would ruin the case if someone else found out. I was part of a community meeting where someone said, one thing we got to do is separate the coroner from the sheriff. That's a big problem in our county. To this person's surprise, I said, there's no such thing as a coroner in LA County. We're pretty certain that, the sheriff and the coroner, because of the association. So that's why it's so important to establish our independence as an agency where we independently determine the cause of death and also the manner of death.
All right, hold on. There's one more video that I do want to show you guys because he kind of does talk about David. This is Julian Dory. He had Joseph Scott Morgan on his show. Let me see. This was literally in the middle of a Charlie Kirk podcast, but they kind of brought up David. So let me just share this with you guys really quick. He does. He definitely looks like Al Roker.
Springing from this defect, you're not, hey, where's the ambulance? Well,
right.
Somebody call 911.
That's
You're
right.
not going to do that.
You're moving.
You're moving, dude. You're moving. Okay. You're moving. Getting him in there, getting him to the hospital. I'd be curious as well. If you look at like presidential, motorcades, I know it's not the same thing, but most people that run security operations that are like really class acts at what they do, and they have a principle that they're protecting.
Oh,
they know where the close.
I think I'm at the wrong timestamp. My bad.
Yeah, my thought, and if there is one place where I, go tape forever, I'm not every little.
Okay, here.
I would think you just video the whole thing so that you can see every little thing that happened in there. Now that immediately in my head, and I'm sure you'll say this, a devil's advocate is like, then you can have a defense attorney pick apart every single thing that happened in there. But if you're not doing anything wrong and you're doing it by the book and doing it correctly, would there even be anything to pick apart?
Donna, yes, I will be there tomorrow.
Potentially.
Hopefully.
And not to, we'll get to this eventually, I think today, but let me just give you State's Exhibit 1A here.
Okay.
You look at what's happening with the D4VD case, isn't it? David,
yeah, the singer.
was just dropped this week. The medical examiner's office, coroner's office in LA County is under investigation right now because multiple investigators and staff have looked at all of those files. And there is even a hint that they've disseminated some of that stuff to the media.
TMZ and stuff. LA County medical examiner workers probed after leaks in David murder case. Employees are being interviewed over allegations they viewed the medical examiner's investigation files without permission, following media reports that included grisly details from the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. And essentially what's being alleged here is that this underage girl who's like 14, he killed her and left her body in a car in a abandoned.
Yeah. I mean, it goes, and I'd love to dig into this case with you because because of the nature of it and the way it's been handled, and now with this revelation relative to this, it really
quick
should.
sidebar on this. We'll come back to
Yeah, we
Charlie
will come
Kirk,
back
but let's do this real
let's
quick.
go back to Charlie. Yeah, sure. But yeah, so you're talking about documentation and that sort of thing. Who are you going to trust? Who are you going to trust with the videography if it's a single person doing it? And one of the things that that you wonder about, if the defense has this, what are they going to do with it? And and obviously you have to ask the same question about the prosecution if they're driven by some kind of motivation. But yeah, just from a practical standpoint, yeah, they could take it.
Cal,
Now,
what's
here's
up,
one of the
Cal?
problems with using videography, and I came across this actually happening in a case that I covered several years ago.
That's pretty much it. All right, let's go ahead and see what Brian had.
So I'm in Los Angeles covering the David preliminary hearing, which is going to be starting tomorrow. It's expected to last several days. There's been a lot of information that's been withheld in that case, including things from the medical examiner's office. So I expect we're going to learn a lot more and about a lot of the evidence that the prosecution has against David. He's, of course, accused of killing Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Just a very, very, very sad case. What's interesting, too, is for the preliminary hearing, there's only so many spots in the courtroom, so I'm going to have to get there super early. I think I'm going to...
This guy really talking about, like, I got to get there super early. Dude, News Nation got the media passes already.
Get there at, like, I don't know, maybe 6 a.m. To line up, and there's some kind of lottery system, so everybody gets a ticket, and then they do a lottery to see who can get inside, which is always
I have
kind
it,
of
Joanne. Do you
stressful 'cause
recommend
you
it?
never really know if you're going to make it inside. So I don't know how many people are going to be there trying to get the lottery tickets, but yeah, so I'm in LA, and we'll see how the next couple of days goes. And like I said, I expect we're going to learn a lot more about the case. Hey guys, so I'm in Los Angeles.
So not only will Brian Enton be there, I will also be there as well. We will be fighting for a spot. Not really fighting. We're gonna try to dip our toes into that lottery and see if we, become one of the lucky 10 to get a spot. So I don't know. If not, we're gonna be outside of the courthouse. We're gonna be streaming. We're gonna be talking about it. We're gonna have our ears close to the ground. No, not the ground, the doors. I don't know what I don't know what the saying is, but we're going to have our ears peeled for sure. We're definitely going to stick around. There's some people out there that I'm probably, going to meet out there. So you can imagine all of media is going to be there. It's going to be a frenzy. So if Trapmore Ross is there, I'll say what's up to him, but I don't believe he is going to be there. But if he is, I'll say what's up. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, he absolutely has a media pass for sure, right? He's got one of those official press passes. We got to figure out a way for me to get one. I don't know if there's like an association that you have to go through to get like press passes, or you get one through like the city or the courthouses, but we got to figure out a way to get one. If anybody knows the way to get like a media credentials, let me know, because I'm willing to do it. I'd love for you both to be in the courtroom. That would be awesome. I know, imagine. But to be honest with you, I don't think Trapmore Ross is going to be able to make it. I think he said it earlier in one of his videos. I have a feeling he's probably just gonna live stream possibly, and probably show another live stream, somebody who's covering it. But yeah, we'll see. Can I draw on printer paper and that would work? Yeah, absolutely. Just put a little sticker, one that says certified by Jazz, and that'll absolutely work. What else? Okay, here, let me read the last thing. And this was a tweet that SF put out. This one this was a good tweet, right? Because he asked a lot of questions that all of us had. What'd you say, Abraham? You make them yourself with your media and logo and info. It's nothing official. It's just identifies you as media. Oh, well, why didn't you just say that? I didn't know it was just that easy. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully not, but you'll definitely hear from me tomorrow. I don't know who normally goes to court and does this kind of stuff, because the last time I went to the arraignment and we stayed outside waiting for a press conference, and they ended up having the arraignment across the street and I had no idea. So we missed everything, but we were out there at the courthouse. Hopefully we'll run into Pincha Becky too. So if Becky's out there, we'll definitely be hanging out with her too. But here, let me read this really quick, because SF Investigates put out a tweet literally like 2 minutes before the show started, and it said the time has come. The preliminary hearing in the David case begins tomorrow. It is time for the prosecution to lay out its evidence to step on the neck of David Anthony Burke, who I believe is responsible for one of the most horrific crimes in history. There are several issues I will be watching closely. First, what is the context behind the prosecution's statement that David watched Celeste bleed out? Now, remember that the actual brief does not say watch Celeste bleed out. It actually says he stood there while she bled out. But I guess you can infer that it basically means the same thing, right? To me, that suggests there may have been a witness, some form of surveillance, or that David allegedly confessed this detail to someone who did not report it and kept his secret. Second, there was Celeste's body during the 12 days between the date prosecutors contend she was killed and dismembered and the date her body was discovered. That part of the timeline does not yet make sense to me, and I'm very interested to see how the prosecution establishes it. I also want to know what conversations took place after the news broke that David's Tesla had been found with the body of a young girl inside, and at the time he was on tour, Asia was with him, Nia had been with him, and I think Neo was only there for a few days. I don't think he was literally there like when the body was discovered. I think he came back literally a day or two after. Neo had been with him. His management team was either traveling with him or in regular contact with him. What did they ask him, and what did he tell them? Or did any of them already know? Who was staying at the house? Ooh, this is a good one. Who was staying at the house when the Tesla was towed with Celeste's body inside? So we know that the Tesla was towed on September 5th, right? So who was home? Another question he asks is, more importantly, who remained there until the night before the search warrant was served, right? The search warrant was served, I want to say, on September 17th or 18th. I can't remember exactly what date, but I think it's 17 or 18. We know from a noise complaint that someone was reportedly at the residence the night before the search. Why were they staying there, and what was their understanding of why the Tesla had been parked a block away while Asia's vehicle remained in front of the house from the time they left for the tour until after the search warrant was served? It's a good question. Jazzy, thank you so much for the 80 gems. I appreciate it. Clock it. Clock it. Now, everybody wants to know, right? Did anyone receive immunity? And if so, we may not hear from that witness during the preliminary hearing, but other testimonies may allow us to read between the lines. Finally, at the arraignment, David's attorney said the evidence would show that he was not responsible for Celeste's death. If that is their position, how do they contend she died? Who do they claim was responsible? In my opinion, David Anthony Burke is no longer fighting for his freedom. His fight is between the death penalty or a plea for life in prison without the possibility of parole. This is all my opinion, but I'm here for justice for Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Woo, you guys. He was probably on his phone during that time, in my opinion. Yeah, he probably was. Right? Just check Amazon has them. Wait, Amazon has what? If you send me your logo, I can make one for you in Canva. Hey, let's go. I got to figure out a logo because I really don't have an actual logo. But I'm open. Anybody designs, let me know. I'll send you an email about how you can get a press pass. It's not really that hard. All right, Raina, shoot it. Let me know because I definitely would be down. I'll be down for a press pass. So what are you guys' thoughts, you guys? Very legit questions, right? First, I heard about Asia's car being there. Makes sense, I guess. Oh, really? Peekaboo, yeah. SF had mentioned a while ago that 2 days, I think 2 days after the discovery of her body, somebody, an unnamed person, had come and picked up a car that was outside of David's home. We later found out that that was Asia's dad, and another person came to David's residence to pick up the car. So I don't know. I also want to know, like, what we have 54 search warrants that are hopefully are about to be unsealed. So I will ask anybody who is, anybody on the inner circle, anybody who messes with Flojo, if you guys can get a hold of any of those warrants as they are released, I do encourage you to let me know. Send them to me via email, flojoetv, flojoetv@gmail.com. So then that way we can talk about it. Foxy, thank you so much for the 30 gems. I appreciate you, Glitch. Damn. What's it called? StreamYard needs to get it together. They need to start like showing these little gems that people are supporting the channel with. Let's see. Chad's wife. In my opinion, everyone close to David knew she was underage. Why else would her face be covered in his social media posts? Yeah, I agree. There should be absolutely no I mean, we know why, right? Because he didn't want anybody to know except for the people that he was around. I do want to know what IDs, multiple IDs he had of David. I mean, he had of Celeste. School IDs, fake passport, and then there's also the trip. There's also the trip to London, you guys, right? And for those of you guys that have been following, a lot of stuff has just come out recently about the trip to London. There's been people who have been called out to be associated with him. Earlier, hold on, let me make sure that this photo right over here is supposedly a photo of David in London. This is another photo of PSP, some plum puppers, or plum pot. I don't know what it is. Puppers. It's got some vitamin C. So this is basically just another photo just to kind of show that he was actually in London. This happens to be around the same time also that Celeste took that flight, which is supposedly on like September 18th, you guys. So a little bit after her 14th birthday. Yeah, it would have been her 14th birthday, you guys. How crazy. I'm curious to know like when she went to Houston, Houston. Was it Houston? To visit the family. And then all the other places that he flew out to, Las Vegas. Very, very odd. He has a PS Vita. Those are awesome. You have a modded one. So what does that mean, Ronan? I'm old. Does that mean you can play like any games? You don't have to have an actual game like inside of it. So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this this whole London trip? You guys saw that there was the confirmation or the email receipt, confirmation email that was leaked. Let me see if we can find that. There's so much on the Reddits. Here it is. This one right over here. So as you guys can see here, this is just a confirmation email, I believe, that was sent, whoever it was sent to, right? But the shipping address clearly states Victoria Mendez. Billing address is David Burke, and the billing address is in his house in Hempstead, Texas, while the shipping address is to his home here in Los Angeles. Nene, thank you for the 6-7. And then who else did it? Nene. Oh, and then the other 100 gems. High five. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you. So yeah. And you guys, what we did earlier, you may have seen Trentmore Ross put out this video, but Oh, Joanne, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Flo Joe. Joseph Scott Morgan shows excellent. Yeah, I know. His stuff is really awesome. I was watching a ton of his content yesterday. But in regards to this, right, we see here that it's a United ticket, right? And it says here, thanks Celeste for choosing United with a confirmation number. We were able to take this confirmation number. We were able to go to a receipts page. We were able to type in the confirmation and Celeste's name. And we tried it multiple different ways at first. And the other names, we kept getting an error until we actually combined both last names. So it was Rivas Hernandez in the last name and then Celeste in the first name with the confirmation number. And once we submitted that information, we clicked enter. We got this confirmation email that said an email has been sent to the address on file, basically confirming that, this trip was real. But yeah, so $686. Taxes and fees $32, and then $150 charge for unaccompanied minor, one accompanied minor between the ages of 12 to 14. Trip insurance billed separately by Travel Guard Group, $54.73. Yeah, so it's funny because here you see this name, Victoria Mendez, right? Let me see. You guys can see right there in the middle that the name clearly states Victoria Mendez. And as you guys remember, the name Victoria Mendez is very infamous in this case because all of the equipment and items that David either Postmated, ordered on Amazon, got from Home Depot, they were all under the name of Victoria Mendez. And Strategic Eyes put out a video today. I think it was today. Maybe he did it on another live as well. But I was watching him today and he was saying that, no, maybe this was yesterday because I think I was driving when I was listening to him. But what I remember him saying is that David may have created this person to possibly be like a parent figure. So someone who would be signing off on a lot of the things for Celeste. So I don't know. David's now making up other characters. This is probably his third alter ego. His third alter ego is Victoria Mendez. You guys, I'm calling his other alter ego. That London trip is going to be a huge part of the trial. If any of the paperwork for the flight was notarized, there should be a fingerprint too. I believe California requires fingerprints and IDs at a notary. Wow. I've never got anything notarized, so I don't know. But if you're right, I said third. I don't know. He had Atami, he had David, and then Victoria Mendez was his third. I don't know. I'm just making it up. Right? They think it was a fake parent. Maybe it could have been a person, that was playing the parent figure, who was allowing Celeste to go on these trips. And maybe he made up, Victoria Mendez as a parent figure. How many alter egos does this guy have? Well, I mean, he's admitted to having about 4, right? He said that there were 4 that he was going to introduce throughout his music career. The only thing is we've only met 1. We met the anime character. There was supposed to be a gaming character, the musician, and I don't know. He gave a breakdown of it in another live. Yeah, you guys, I have a lot of questions about this, right? We saw this. We saw Jack Hallenbeck. That's another name that keeps coming up. That was the guy in the "Are You Still Dating a Minor" video. You guys remember that one? Let me see. Let me remind you guys. Let me just move this over here. And then move this over here. So Jack Hallenbeck is supposedly a producer who's been credited on, I think, the Withered album, and I think on Romantic Homicide, if I'm not mistaken. But here you can hear Jack Hollenbeck asking David a question.
Where's he from? You need to be invested in this?
Which one? Is it Whitaker?
Is this fucking farm boy? I'll beat the
Because
shit out
I'll
of
freak
it.
out.
Are you still dating that
I
minor?
love him.
Are you still dating that minor? Are you still dating that minor? So, I mean, if this is his producer or someone who's credited on his album and he's really asking David if he's still dating that minor, boy, he's got some answering to do. Let's listen to that.
Where's he from? You need to be invested in this?
Which one? Is it Whitaker?
Is this fucking farm boy? I'll beat the
Because
shit out
I'll
of
freak
it.
out.
Are you still dating that
I
minor?
love him.
So, we've also shown this a long time ago as well, that there were some photos from David's camera that also shows David hanging out with Jack Hollenbeck at his home studio. This was back in 2025, right? So January 23rd, 2025. This is really just to show you guys that there is more of a relationship between Jack Hollenbeck and David and the entire trip to London. Now, there's also another video. Hold on. Let me also show you this too, right? Because there's this video as well. Here's David talking about Jack Hollenbeck.
Song came out. Little insight on how I made the album. I spent 2 weeks in London making 14 songs. So I spent the day making a song a day with my three friends, Jack, Scott, and Lucio. And
Jack, Scott, and Lucio.
And we documented the whole process.
And he forgot to mention Celeste Rivas Hernandez.
And then I came back to Houston, went back to America, where I grew up, and I made the rest of the album on my phone.
Let's listen to that again.
The song came out. Little insight on how I made the album. I spent 2 weeks in London making 14 songs. So I spent the day making a song a day with my three friends, Jack, Scott, and Lucio. And we documented the whole process. And then I came back to Houston, went back to America, where I grew up, and I made the rest of the album on my phone.
So Jack knows something. Anyways, yeah, these were some photos that came from David's actual camera roll. And I don't think enough people talked about this at all when this was posted. But these photos were found in David's camera roll. They were posted, and it didn't come from SF. But this just shows that David and this person do have a relationship, and it went all the way over to London. But anyways, that's going to be it for me tonight, you guys. I do appreciate it. I do have to get to bed, right? If I'm going to plan to wake up early and make my way over to the courthouse. So I got to get some rest. Again, do me a favor. If you guys haven't already, please hit the like button. If you guys haven't, hit the subscribe button. Thank you to everybody who supported the channel. Let me make sure I shout all of you guys out. Coco Mom, thank you for celebrating 6 months as a member. Reina, thank you for the 2 gems. Soul Power, thank you for joining the Inner Circle and becoming a member. Joanne Marie, thank you for the 10 gems. Viking, thank you so much for the 200 gems. Norma for the 2 gems. Reina for the 2 gems. Tammy for the 440 gems. Joanna for the 10 gems again. Jazzy with the 10 and the 80. Foxy with the 30. Empires with the 67 gems. Empires again with the 100. And then Joanne with the $2 super chat. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Don't forget, you guys, we are going to be going live tomorrow at the courthouse. Maybe I'll film our trip on the way there. I don't know. We'll see. But that's going to be it for me tonight. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I love you guys. Take care, you guys. We are out. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.